And now joining us, Dr. Kerry Cronin, in studio to share about some experiences really she's had that I can't wait to talk about this, in all honesty, because in your classroom at Boston College, you did something, and there's a documentary that's been made. You were part of that documentary. Okay. One of the opening showings is already sold out, I guess, right? It's
sold out at Fenway Theater, but I think Assembly Row has tickets.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Yes.
All right, so you graduated from Boston College.
I did.
Many times, because your degrees, you kept getting degrees, so it was many different times. And then you taught there philosophy and theology, or?
Yes, yes. I teach as an adjunct. I work in a philosophy institute, and I teach part-time philosophy and theology core courses.
Okay,
together.
so you're busy with BC.
I'm a little busy. Yeah.
I'm an Eagles fan, by the way, just so you know. Yes, I am. I'm an Eagles fan. But here's what's interesting. So you have a class, and it became newsworthy because you actually asked your students to ask someone out on a date. Is that correct?
I did.
So how did this happen, and why did it happen?
Well, you know, years ago, about 12, maybe 14 years ago, I was talking to a group of students. They were seniors, and they were just about to graduate, and I was asking them, you know, what are you doing? You're getting jobs, you're going on to grad school. What are you going to do about those relationships that you have? And they said, no relationships. We got jobs in grad school, no relationships. And I said, what are you talking about? And of the 8 students I was talking to that night, only 1 had dated at BC. And I thought, wait, what's going on? That's crazy. So I said, what's happening? And they talked about hookup culture and hanging out and friends with benefits and all that stuff. And I thought, no, that's crazy. That's not okay. So in my class that year, I was teaching my freshmen, but I was also teaching a senior capstone seminar, and I said to the seniors, I need you to go on a date. And they said, okay, yeah, that's great, we're gonna do it. And every week they came back and they kept talking about it, and they didn't do it. And I thought, what's going on? And I realized they didn't know what they were doing at all.
Well, first of all, you should just flunk them at that point.
Absolutely,
just flunk them.
Exactly. So the next semester, I handed out a list of instructions, and I said, you've got 2 weeks to get this done, and I'll flunk you if you don't do it. So with my freshmen now, I give it as an extra credit assignment. And I've been doing this for, 12 years, 13 years. And there's instructions, and they have to ask somebody in person, and they have to pay, and, they have to date smartly, right? And then they have
seriously.
to seriously. It has to be somebody you have a legitimate romantic interest in.
So here's what's interesting to me about this. We live in a culture now. I have 3 children. I have a daughter in college.
Right.
I have a son who's in high school, and I have a 6th grader.
Nice.
So I'm running the gamut there.
Yeah, you are.
but they have all of these connections, and yet
That's right.
they don't connect. So
That's right.
they're on their iPhone or whatever phone they're on, they're on their iPad, they're on their computer, and they're kind of communicating, but they could be sitting next to each other. So have we really lost the art of talking to each other?
Absolutely. I think that this is a big part of it, right? This has really contributed to our difficulty in dating and in relationships, is that we're sort of always kind of one step behind, right? We're behind the screen. And when students read that first rule in my assignment, that you have to ask the person out in person, that's a huge obstacle for them. They're terrified of that because it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, and they don't have the habits of speaking face to face when it's a difficult or awkward thing. And so they don't know how to push through that. Yeah, it's difficult.
And it's a challenge for them. And
it is.
And they almost seem as if they're trying to stay safe by being in this cocoon.
That's right.
But by doing that, they're not meeting people, and it's not a community. It's breaking down the community.
Right. I had a young man. So part of the assignment is they have to write. They have to come back to class and talk to each other about how hard it was to ask somebody on a date, what it was like to go on a date, that kind of thing. And they also have to write up a 2 to 3 page reflection for me. And this one young man, 2 years ago, wrote this beautiful reflection about going on a date. They walked from Newton campus of Boston College into Newton Center, and he said, I was so frustrated. We were having this shallow conversation, and she kept checking her phone, and I felt like she wasn't really seeing me or hearing me. And he said, when we got to the coffee shop, I decided to change it. I made a decision. I was going to talk about real things and ask her real, genuine questions. And he said, what was beautiful is she stopped checking her phone. And so I think that goes to what you're saying. You know, all of this social media stuff promises us so much connection, but it doesn't really give it to us.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So, and you worked with some friends of ours. You worked with Family Theater, the Paulus,
Yes.
Empower. How was that?
That was fantastic. I got to admit, when they first emailed me, they emailed me a few times and I ignored their emails because I thought, yeah, I don't want to be in a movie. That could be crazy. But then I talked to them, they called me and caught me on the phone, and they were just wonderful, devout, faithful people. And I thought, okay, I'll do this. And I got involved in this movie, and it's beautiful. I'm so happy and proud of it. It's really story-driven. It's got a lot of heart. It's inspiring, and it's a great movie to get people talking about how to support the people you know in your life who are single, how to try to work through your questions about dating and relationships.
We're seeing some of it now. It looks just absolutely gorgeous, and clearly, it's always about content, and the content is great because I don't think people realize it's not easy to ask someone out because of rejection.
Right.
No one wants to be
Absolutely.
rejected, and everyone's
Nobody.
afraid, and they don't
Right.
want to be embarrassed. You have to get. Is that the first hurdle you really have to get over?
Sure, and you know, as I always say to college students, because I speak about this at BC, but also other schools. Look, all of these students are lovely, wonderful, high-achieving, smart, but this is an area of your life where you know, all the effort you put in doesn't necessarily correlate to success, and so there is the risk of rejection and of feeling really vulnerable and feeling lonely. But we have to be brave. And I always say to students, the assignment it's not necessarily about finding your soulmate or about romance, though it can be, and I hope it is, but it's mostly about social courage. It's mostly about being brave and finding out what you really, truly long for.
Well, you've sold me, and I'm out of the
good.
dating game, but I'm sold. Where can people find out about tickets and?
So the movie site is thedatingprojectmovie.com, and at that place you can see the trailer, which is really fun, and you can look up where in your area by zip code where it's playing, and you can buy tickets there. And then it'll be available, I think, on DVD and streaming afterwards.
Well, thanks so much for being with us
Thanks
today.
for
This has been a
having
lot
me.
of fun.
This is so much fun. It's so great to be here.
Kevin.